Okay, sorry. Good evening. Today is Monday, November 10th, 2025, and the time now is 6 p.m. And I will call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website and designated posting place 24 hours prior to the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. The guidelines are available online and on the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for persons in attendance at the town hall to address the board. The first is limited to items on the agenda, and the second public comment opportunity allows any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not, to be addressed. If you have comments regarding the public hearings tonight, comments will be taken during that item. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Crane.
Here.
Trustee Hagan.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, November 10th, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence in recognition of our sacrifices made by our veterans. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as is. Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Hagan.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have an agenda for this evening. Next is our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report. I don't have a lot to add tonight other than I think most of you are aware County Road 38 is now open across I-25, like a month ahead of schedule. So that's exciting to have a project come in ahead of schedule. Also, just as a reminder, the Welker exit will open back up on Thursday for sure. At this point, it's supposed to be closed through Wednesday night. They're going to be switching all the traffic. So if any of you take I-25, you'll be able to get off there now. And then finally, I did want to mention that the lights are on in the parking lot and they're really softly lit. I hope you guys notice that. It kind of blends into the neighborhood, but it also, you can find your keys when you're going to your car. So we got that going. And then finally, I asked Erica if she would come up and talk about some of the work that we have going on, the warranty work over at the community center, in case you get questions about what that work is. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, trustees. Last week, you probably noticed there was some milling of the asphalt surface over at the community center. The top 2 inches were milled off. That's for both parking lots and the alley. And the reason for that is related to poor construction. So there were a lot of variations in the surface of that pavement, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to, in some places, over 2 inches. And what that means, right, is water doesn't drain where it's supposed to drain, which can cause premature pavement failure and ice in the winter. And so we did not pay for that. We did not accept that. And our contractor, Doan Construction, did the absolute right thing. They hired a different subcontractor to come back and do the repair work that you're seeing now. So it's a pretty significant amount. It's over $100,000 that we withheld, that we didn't pay for that. So they are supposed to be back this week on Thursday and Friday to repave that. Happy to answer any questions.
This is related to the community center, but I saw the email that came through talking about us charging parents to attend practices for their kids' sporting events. And I know you said you guys are figuring out a way to handle that. I'm sorry, that needs to full stop right now. That's insane to charge parents to come to their kids' practices. They don't have to pay if they come watch them play soccer. They don't have to pay if they come watch them, play flag football or t-ball or any other sport. If they were having a practice at the school, they would not have paid to get in. There is zero reason why those parents should be being charged to come and watch their kids at practice. That should full stop immediately. I just wanted to say that.
No, there's no motion to be had. That was a statement.
And
I don't think we need a motion. I get it. We're working through it. We're moving some practices around there. There's a few other things at play there about different things going on. It isn't just people sitting and watching their kids, but we're on it. I mean, just bear with us. We've just opened the place. There's a lot of times, if you've been by it, it is really being used. So that's our goal. We're doing our best and we'll continue to work out the kinks.
okay, any other questions for Helen or tonight? All right, thank you, ma'am. Next, we'll move on to our first informational item tonight. It is Name the Snowplow Winners. And I invite our event and media specialist, JC Winger, to help us get through this wonderful night.
Thank you. Good evening. As you know, tonight I'm excited to announce our second annual Name the Snowplow winners. As you guys might know, we invite Mead Elementary School students to submit fun and creative snowplow names for a chance to see them in action and displayed on our Public Works snowplows for the winter. Submissions were open for a couple weeks in October. And this year's winners will receive their very own personalized sign tonight and have the opportunity to ride in their named snowplow during our annual Parade of Lights on December 5th. This year, our Name the Snowplow winners were Scoopy Doo, submitted by Hunter Festy, who unfortunately is unable to make it tonight. Blizzard Buster, submitted by Peyton Northrop. Platypus, submitted by Camden Mitchell. At this time, I would like to invite up our winners to receive their signs and congratulations and take a photo with the board. You want to hold your sign? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, thanks for coming. Bye. All right, congratulations to the winners again, and we'll move on to our second informational item tonight. It will be our November 4th, 2027 municipal election and unofficial results by our town clerk, Mary Struth. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I just have for you tonight the November 4th, 2025 special municipal election results. As you recall, this was a coordinated election with Weld County. The unofficial primary results I have as of November 10th, which is today. Weld County will release the official preliminary results by the end of the week. I wanted to just point out that as of July 2025, we had 5,148 registered voters in the town of Mead, and approximately 2,070 have voted so far and been counted. So that's about a 40% turnout at this election. It is an odd year election, which historically has lower turnout nationwide, right? So we did just have one question on the ballot. It was ballot issue 2B, public safety. Actually, it was law enforcement, sales tax. And the yeses were 798, the noes 1272. So it did fail 61 to 38%. That's all I have for you is those results. I'll have the final results later on in the month, and we'll provide those just in a board packet. I don't expect the results to change drastically between now and the end of the month. Again, just kind of wanted to point out that voter turnout, 40% now was the voter turnout last year, which was an even numbered year, a presidential election year. We historically have more voters in those years. We had a turnout of 3,897 voters then, which was a 75% turnout. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Mary?
What were the percentages last year? Do you remember? The percentages for and against?
51. They turned off. 51 against and 49 for.
That close, okay.
Yeah, it was really close last year. It was off by less than 200 votes or around 200 votes.
Thank you very much, Mary. Okay, we'll move on to our proclamation tonight. Veterans Day is tomorrow, November 11th, 2025, and I've asked Trustee Schranz to read the proclamation.
Proclamation, Veterans Day, November 11th, 2025. Whereas on November 11th, 1918, the armistice ending World War I was signed, marking the cessation of hostilities and allowing the people of the United States to resume peaceful relations with other nations, a peace we hope may never again be broken. And whereas on October 8th, 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower issued the first Veterans Day proclamation stating, in order to ensure proper and widespread observance of this anniversary, all veterans organizations, and the entire citizenry will wish to join hands in a common purpose. And whereas Veterans Day continues to be observed annually on November 5th, regardless of the day of the week on which it falls, restoring the observance of Veterans Day to November 11th not only preserves the historical significance of the date, but also emphasizes the important purpose of honoring our veterans. And whereas Veterans Day is a celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. And as we continue to struggle for liberty and universal human rights, let us draw strength from the moment when free nations overcame oppression and gave new hope to the world. Now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor of the town of Mead, does hereby proclaim November 11th, 2025 as Veterans Day and encourage all citizens to recognize the valor and sacrifice of our nation's veterans. Given under her hand the seal of the town of Mead, Colorado, November 10th.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the signing of this proclamation?
I'll move to approve the signing of the proclamation.
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our public comment. The board welcomes public comment at this time for any item on the agenda. We will also take comments on the agenda on items not on the agenda during the second public comment, number 11. Please remember the public comment is not intended to be a question and answer session. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. All comments should be directed to the Board of Trustees and not to specific individuals. If you wish to speak during this first public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. We ask that all speakers and audience members treat one another with respect and dignity. Let's ensure we maintain a welcoming environment and avoid any actions that could be distracting. Ms. Strutt, do we have anyone who signed up for this public comment period?
Not for this public comment, Mayor.
Okay. Is there anyone else here present that would like to approach the podium to be heard? Okay, move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. I want to recognize staff for putting together these items and the board for reviewing them ahead of tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
trustee Shranz,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is public hearings. We have three public hearings are scheduled for tonight. The first public hearing is Welcome Farms Planned Unit Development is a continuation from September 8th, 2025. We will first hear from staff, then the applicant may present. After the applicant, we will take questions or concerns from the public, followed by the trustees. I will reopen the public hearing and the time now is 6:17. And I invite our planner, Alex Haley, will present our staff report tonight. Oh, excuse me. Colin, sorry. I was reading.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Tonight for your consideration, we're bringing forward the Welker Farms PUD, which was continued from our September 8th board meeting. So I'm just going to start off my presentation going over and revisiting some of the details about the application. Then we'll go over some items from the comprehensive plan and the land use code as they relate to this project. And then we'll wrap up with the items that have changed with the application since the last hearing. And then I'll turn over the podium to the applicant and they have a presentation as well. So as you may remember, the applicant for this project is David Meyerowitz. The property in question is 34.5 acres in size approximately. It's currently zoned with the downtown mixed-use zoning district, which directly corresponds with the future land use designation for the property of downtown mixed use. So the property is generally located just to the east of Old Town Mead on the north side of Welker Avenue, directly adjacent to Ames Park, which is on the west of the property. The property is surrounded on all sides within the town of Mead with various zoning classifications. These include RSF4 to the north, highway commercial to the east, as well as RSF4, general commercial, and highway commercial down to the south. So here's a quick vicinity map for the property just to help you get your bearings. So as you can see, Ames Park is directly to the west of the subject property, and then vacant land surrounds the property on all other sides. Old Town's about a half mile to the west, and then there's several existing neighborhoods ranging from a quarter to a full mile to the north, including Feather Ridge, the Highlands, and Coyote Run. So here's our future land use map that comes directly out of the comprehensive plan. And so this illustrates the intent of the extension of downtown Mead, coming from Old Town east across Welker, extending almost all the way to the freeway. There we go. So this downtown sub area outlines excuse me, let me restart that. The extension of the downtown along Welker is included in the comprehensive plan as a downtown sub area, which outlines a goal for development within that sub area and outlines what uses and design strategies should be promoted within the downtown. So the goal for the downtown sub-area is to function as an active destination and community gathering space for residents, visitors, as well as prospective businesses. The sub-area should provide high-quality neighborhood and commercial areas with diverse housing types, walkable commercial areas, and enhanced pedestrian facilities commonly found in vibrant downtown pedestrian-oriented development. So this is a bird's eye view of a conceptual downtown layout that is also included in our comprehensive plan. And it's used to illustrate how the various guidelines and strategies outlined on the previous slide are conceptually laid out on the ground. So this conceptual identifies several key points that the downtown sub area should include, including walkable Main Street shops with a charming Main Street character, tree line, pedestrian focused streets, as well as that proposed roundabout that necks down Welker Avenue from the freeway into the extended downtown, which will also serve as a landmark gateway feature for the downtown. So this conceptual layout included in the comprehensive plan. It also anticipates that the downtown sub-area extends that grid pattern from Old Town Mead with flexible design standards and a mix of higher density residential, retail, and office space. I'm going to jump to this one. So with this concept of extending the downtown along Welker Avenue, the town used the future land use designation of downtown mixed use to guide rezoning the properties along Welker to the downtown mixed use zoning district. So this zoning district seeks to bring the comprehensive plan's vision for the downtown sub area to life by allowing for a mix of uses within that zoning district. So these include things such as commercial and retail uses, office space, restaurants and brew pubs, as well as residential uses such as duplexes and multifamily housing. The DMU zoning district also sets density and dimensional standards on the properties with that respective zoning. So these include standards such as the max density of the property is 14 dwelling units to an acre, as well as a maximum building height of 40 feet. So one thing that the DMU zoning district does not require is a mixture of uses within a development. So if a developer were to come in and only want to develop multifamily on a property, as long as they meet those density and dimensional standards outlined in the code, they would be allowed to develop the property as such. And same thing if a developer wanted to come in and only develop retail or only develop office space and so on and so forth. So there's not a required mixture of uses within a property that is zoned for DMU. So that brings us to that PUD request before you tonight. The request is to rezone the property from solely DMU to DMU with a PUD overlay. So this overlay is asking for modifications to the zoning density and dimensional standards, which include an increase in the maximum building height for just a portion of the property from 40 feet, which is the current requirement, up to 54 feet, as well as an increase in the gross density for the property from 14 dwelling units to the acre up to 17.4 dwelling units to the acre. This proposal also includes modifications to some of the density and dimensional standards for the single family detached and attached products that will be allowed in the development. And this is due to market trends with smaller property sizes, lot sizes, people not wanting to maintain yards and pay for the water to upkeep that grass and landscaping. So in exchange for these modifications, the town is requiring that the development provide a mixture of uses to ensure the property does not develop with just one singular use, whether that be multifamily, commercial, offices. So this requirement is carried out through 3 different planning areas that dictate the allowed uses. Along with these planning areas, the town also required heightened architecture, landscape, and signage standards. So these standards help to ensure that development will be cohesive and that each commercial building blends with one another. And there's also a smooth transition into the residential portion of the project. So here's those planning areas that I was just discussing. So as you can see, planning area A is just west of the proposed roundabout and will only allow for commercial uses. And it really serves as a hard corner to set the tone for that new extension of the downtown. Planning Area B, also along Welker, just to the west of Planning Area A, will allow for commercial uses, as well as single-family attached, which includes housing types such as duplexes, as well as townhomes. And then also, Planning Area B will allow for mixed-use buildings, which will require commercial or office uses on the ground floor, with residential uses allowed above. And then Planning Area C encompasses the northern 1/3 to 1/2 of the property, and that allows for a mixture of residential uses, including single-family detached, single-family attached, as well as multifamily units. So at the public hearing back on September 8th, the board voiced concerns over the proposed modification to the maximum building height, as well as multifamily being allowed as a use along the Welker corridor within Planning Area B. So in response to these concerns, over the past 2 months, staff has worked with the applicant to refine the allowed uses within Planning Area B to only allow multifamily within a mixed-use building. So this would require that ground floor of the mixed-use building to contain a commercial, an office, or personal service or entertainment use. And then multifamily would only be on the floors above that ground floor. These mixed-use buildings would also be required to follow the 40-foot maximum height, so they would not be required to follow the 54-foot proposed modification within Planning Area C. They would be still held to that 40-foot along Welker. And so this style of mixed-use building is similar to Mead Town Center, as well as one of the scooter hinge buildings that are currently in Old Town Mead. Staff also worked with the applicant to create visuals to depict the visual impact that increasing the maximum height within Planning Area C would have on the view of the development from the Welker Avenue corridor. So the visual renderings are included in your packet. Then the applicant has also prepared a cross-section that gives a horizontal view of the development and the building heights, which will be included in their presentation here after I wrap up. So in order to support a rezoning from downtown mixed use to downtown mixed use with a PUD overlay, the proposed rezoning must meet one of 6 criteria outlined in our land use code. So staff feels that this PUD meets the 6 criteria, which states that a rezoning to plan unit development overlay is requested to encourage an innovative and creative design and to promote a mix of land uses within the development. So the proposed PUD will encourage innovative and creative design by requiring that mix of land uses and housing types within the development. This mixture of land uses and housing helps to achieve the comprehensive plan's vision for the downtown sub area to create a vibrant commercial area along Welker that promotes the pedestrian scale and encourages people to walk around the development and around the broader downtown area, while also providing high quality neighborhoods within Planning Area C that allow for different housing types, including duplexes, single family detached, and multifamily. So with that, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 20th, and they unanimously voted to approve the PUD, or unanimously voted to recommend approval of the PUD to the Board of Trustees. Staff has also found that the PUD is in compliance with both the town's comprehensive plan as well as the Mead Municipal Code, and recommend approval of the PUD via the suggested motion in your packet tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, and they have a brief presentation as well, and then I'll be available for any questions.
Town Manager Mitchell Bank, town staff, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you all again. My name is David Merowitz, and I am the applicant and I head the developer of the project. Joining me again tonight are members of my team, Diana Rael and Elise Applegate-Klink. Planners with Norris Design, and Norris Design is one of the premier planning and landscape architecture firms in the state and in the region, I would say. So I'm here tonight to request your approval of the PUD. As you heard, the PUD is recommended by the Planning Commission and recommended and supported by your planning department. Our approach to this project, as with all our projects, is to work collaboratively with the planning department, which we have done for over 2 years now, working back and forth on both big and small details to arrive at a PUD overlay that meets staff's requirements. We have carefully followed and respected your comprehensive plan and the vision it lays out. And although the existing DMU zoning allows most of what we have in the PUD, we and your staff believe that this PUD is a significant improvement on the existing DMU zoning. From the very beginning, I've wanted to plan for a high-quality, elegant, family-oriented, community-oriented development. I'm confident that we've achieved that in this PUD, and that's why I'm asking you to approve it. So I'd like to address just some parts of the PUD because you've heard from your staff, from Colin, and you will hear from my planning consultants shortly. So I'd like to talk to you about the multifamily component of the development. The comp plan expects multifamily in this area of the town, and the existing DMU zoning specifically permits multifamily on this property in accordance with the comp plan's vision. In fact, as you heard, the DMU zoning allows multifamily on the entire property, all 34.5 acres of it, which would leave no room for commercial, retail, or any other variety of housing type. Our PUD also allows multifamily to be built, but it requires commercial as well as a variety of housing, including single-family attached and single-family detached. And so our multifamily component would only be built on a portion of the site. I'd also ask you to keep in mind that the PUD is supposed to be a long-range plan for this property. I do not expect multifamily to be built here for many years, certainly not before 7 or 8 years have passed, if at all. In addition to agreeing that our multifamily would be built on a portion of the site, we also have to ensure that we are able to build, if it is built, a viable multifamily community, which includes needing a minimum number of units. So in order to ensure that we have a viable multifamily component within a limited area, we need to be able to build a bit higher so that we can accommodate the minimum number of apartments needed for a successful project. Now, the extra height that we're asking for also meets another of our objectives, which is that it be a higher quality project. And higher quality projects tend to have higher ceiling heights in the units. They also have elevators in the buildings, and they have higher quality finishes, both inside as well as outside the building, which is what everyone would see. The higher quality finishes on the exterior of the buildings also meets the requirements of your planning staff, who insisted that our PUD establish a high level of minimum standards for the entire development, including the multifamily component. And so in order to achieve everything I've just described, our PUD requests that we be allowed to build to a 54-foot height for the multifamily component, which will facilitate a compact multifamily area and a higher quality multifamily project with higher quality finishes. Now, at the same time as working to achieve the aims of the collaboration between us and your staff, we are cognizant of needing to make sure that the impact of the extra height on those around us is respectful, caring, and considerate. And so we looked at our neighbors. To the west is a park, Ames Park, and the closest buildings on the west are approximately 500 feet away. To the north, the closest homes are approximately 1,600 feet away. In addition, to the north, we border on a floodplain, a ditch, and a proposed new trail, all of which will ensure distance between us and any future development to our north. To the east is a large vacant property which will likely have a large commercial component and will have a wide 80-foot road between us and them. And to the south is Welker Avenue. So due to the surrounding conditions, we do not believe that any of our neighbors will be materially impacted by the increased height of a limited portion of our project. Now, as you have heard from Colin, in response to concerns conveyed to us by staff, we have amended our PUD since we were last in front of you. And we have agreed to not have any 54-foot high multifamily buildings along Welker Avenue. In the PUD, the higher multifamily buildings will be restricted to the North Planning Area C and will not be permitted in planning areas A or B along Welker Avenue. Now, I've spoken about the multifamily and the height. I would like to take just a few minutes before I finish. I heard from the trustees at the hearing in September that you would like to see as much retail as possible along Welker Avenue. As you know, Planning Area A requires only retail commercial, and Planning Area B allows retail commercial, single-family attached residential, and since our previous hearing, we have added mixed use, which calls for commercial retail on the ground floor and an office and or residential on the floors above, restricted to a 40-foot height. Now, I cannot guarantee what will eventually be built because the economy and the market will guide that. But I do believe that our addition of mixed-use buildings in Planning Area B will encourage more retail along Welker Avenue because the ability to build retail as well as residential above the retail will potentially make those developments, that portion of the development, more viable, more economically viable, and then it has a better chance of happening. I wanted to make sure you knew that I heard your comments and that I'm trying to respond to them. Now, we continue to keep in the PUD our agreement to build a public gathering plaza at the roundabout, as well as enhanced landscaping along all the streets. So I believe we're asking you to approve an excellent development that I would be proud of as part of the town's growth. Thank you, and I would like to call on Elise Applegate from Norris to finish our presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So I will be following up on what Colin and David just spoke about. They've already covered a lot of what I have prepared, so I'll try not to reiterate too much, but we can go ahead with the next slide. We've introduced you to our team, and we can go on to the next one as well, but we've worked with Mead for a long time on this project. Colin did a really good job of walking us through the comprehensive plan, showing the same image of this site in context to the downtown mixed-use area, and it really has been a guiding part of our entire process. On to the next slide, please. To reiterate the points about the added design standards, we took a lot of time to come up with a sense of what the brand would be for this area. We felt that modern charm really meant what Mead was looking for, not trying to pretend that this is an old neighborhood, but trying to make sure that it really fit with the downtown district while creating a new neighborhood for people in Mead to live and shop in. Next one, please. So as they've walked through, we revised where each of these land uses are permitted within the PUD. Planning Area A only permits commercial land uses, which is sort of an upgrade or It's a nod to the board and the town's desire for commercial uses along Welker Avenue. B has commercial, mixed use, and single family attached options. And then C is where all of our residential options, including multifamily, are. Multifamily having moved out of planning area B and just in planning area C now. Next slide, please. So we got to work creating these 3D renderings. As you can see, this is not a fully built out site plan. There are still spaces that aren't, imagined in the western portion of the site. But we bring this slide up to show you the points of view for which we've created these 3D renderings, items 1 through 5, all along Welker Avenue, to really give a sense of what it will look like as you're driving into Mead from I-25 or along Welker Avenue headed east. So we can go to the next slide, please. And one more reminder, we've already talked about the improvements to Welker Avenue, but there will be significant improvements. The median will be landscaped. We're adding a parking lane and a bicycle lane on the outer edges of each of these directions, a large curbside landscape area, a large walk, and then specifically within this PUD, there's a requirement that buildings or some sort of active area like a patio or a plaza be within 15 feet of the street to kind of create that sense of activity that you have along the main street here in Mead on 3rd. It's not the entire length of the site, but it's a minimum of 40% of that frontage of the site will need to have some activity in that 15-foot built-to zone. So really creating the downtown structure. Next slide, please. So this first view is looking northwest from the roundabout. Just before you enter it, you can kind of see the curve of the roundabout. And the first image that you see is a single-story commercial building. And then further in the background, that is the rendering of a multifamily building at the maximum height of 54 feet. In our next slide, this is a view coming through the roundabout. And at this perspective, you can really only see the buildings along Welker Avenue. And you can see that they're closer to the street within that sort of activity zone, but not immediately on it. There's a large landscape area and large pedestrian area as well. Next one, please. This view, we wanted to make sure that we were thinking about what it looks like when there's a gap between buildings from Welker Avenue. So this provides that perspective of a single-story building in our planning area C, the commercial area, and the multifamily further in the distance. There's a minimum 300-foot spacing between Welker Avenue and the next road to the north for traffic standards. So it really is quite a distance between Welker Avenue and planning area C, which is divided by the future east-west road. Next slide, please. This is a perspective looking west from Welker Avenue. We've got our one-story building immediately to the right, and then further in the distance, we're rendering a two-story mixed-use building or commercial building along the road. And then in this final image, it's sort of looking northeast from the south side of Welker Avenue. You can see a two-story building on the left, the taller multifamily buildings in planning area C toward the middle, and the single story up front. And next image, please. We really wanted to give some context for how moving multifamily to the north really addresses the comments that we heard last week. There's a lot of fall in grade across the site. There's an irrigation ditch along the north for which we'll have to provide a trail in the future. And I, of course, can't quite see it from here, but I believe it's over a 10 to 15 foot drop from Welker Avenue to about where the multifamily can start. And you can see the dashed line running across is the maximum 40-foot line. And if you were to sort of draw a straight line, that 54-foot building just barely tips out over the top of that further back onto the site. So we thought this was a good way to sort of demonstrate how we've really thought hard about the comments that we received and how we're trying to be thoughtful about creating, a gentle option for the density required to make a multifamily community a viable option here. Nothing is guaranteed, of course. Next slide, please. So looking at the rest of the site, you all are quite familiar with it now, but I've noted that the commercial land uses are permitted along Welker Avenue. Next, please. This image depicts the plaza that David just mentioned that's required immediately adjacent to the roundabout, along with special standards for drive-throughs to ensure that the drive-through is not what you see when you're walking along Welker. It's actually tucked further north behind the building so that there's a more pleasant pedestrian experience and the street doesn't feel too vehicle-oriented. Next slide. We've got our precedent imagery for how these buildings may look, and these images here were specifically chosen because they align with the architectural standards that we worked with town staff on. Next one. And then multifamily has been moved solely to the northern portion of the site. Next slide, please. And here we've provided some images of buildings that provide the step backs that we've required for any building along the northernmost portion of the site. The important architectural features of base, middle, and cap, and our landscaping and parking requirements were specifically written with staff input to make sure that it met not only the code, but met lived experience in Mead. Next one, please. So to round it all up, this PUD is providing branded architecture and landscape design to provide a consistent sense of place and identity throughout the site with the visual components of the site, a mix of land uses, a requirement for only commercial use in that hard corner next to the roundabout, enhanced standards for drive-through design and pedestrian friendliness, new roadway connections, both along Welker Avenue with those improvements and toward the north, and enhancement of the sort of entry to downtown Mead with that gateway at the roundabout. And with that, that wraps up our presentation, but we're glad to answer any questions and speak about any comments.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right, this is now the opportunity for the public to comment on the public hearing. When you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, and we ask that you please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Are there any comments from the public at this time? Okay, thank you very much for your presentations tonight and your time, Colin and David. And do trustees have any comments or questions for either the applicant or staff tonight? Trustee Schrantz and Trustee Hagan.
Question for clarification. And I don't know if it's staff that'll answer it or the developer, either or will work. 54-foot building. Do I interpret that as to be a 3-story building that's 54 feet tall? Or do I interpret that as a 4-story building that's 54 feet tall? That's a question.
David can chime in if you'd like to, but it could be either. It could be a 3-story or a 4-story. The max building height is just 54 feet. So it could be a 3-story, with the higher ceiling, more like a vaulted ceiling, or it could be a 4-story with a bit of a lower ceiling height.
Okay, so that's your interpretation from code. That's great. So I go back to the developer and see what his intent is.
The intent would be to build 4-story.
David, could you come up to the microphone? Thank you.
The intent, to answer your question, the intent would be to build 4-story apartment buildings.
Okay, so 4-story, and I think you said that in order to make them more attractive, higher ceilings, things of that nature. So I'm assuming you're looking at 9-foot, 10-foot ceilings.
Correct.
So fairly flat roof.
It depends.
I'm just doing the quick math in my head.
So I'll run the math for you because we've looked at that, and we've also, there are many precedent 4-story buildings that are in that 52 to 55 foot range. Typically the ground floor would be much higher, so say 14 feet. Then you need the concrete could be 8 to 12 inches, then a 10-foot ceiling, and then you repeat that for the other floors. And once you add that all up, it ends up somewhere in that 50 to 54 foot range area. And we want to make sure there's a beautiful project, and we don't want to be missing a couple of feet. And so that's how we came up to the sought out 54-foot number.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hagan.
I generally support the project. My question is only for planning area B, because on Collins, it still included single family attached, but in the last presentation from Ms. Applegate, it only listed commercial and mixed use.
What I understand is that, and Elise, you can come up and explain, but she was talking about where commercial could be and where residential could be. So she was saying that in planning area A and B, there could be commercial in both areas. It didn't preclude there being a residential above the retail. Did I have it right? Okay.
Above the retail only though, in B.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So in planning area A, there's only retail commercial permitted.
Yep. I got it. I just want.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
what, that's
just to
what
clarify that.
I thought
Yeah,
that was called
I saw
mixed
that
use.
as well, but yeah.
So I didn't know why you'd have mixed use and also identify single family attached if that was already inferred by mixed use. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you for addressing the trustees' concerns and coming back again in front of us tonight. So thank you very much for your team for being here. Colin, thank you very much for being here. And thank you, staff, for helping get this project kicked off.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
I just asked the staff here to bring up the map because I want to make sure that we're totally clear. There were several versions of this map. And prior to listing out the commercial standards, I showed where commercial was an option and for multifamily, where multifamily was an option. But to the question about planning area B, we do list commercial, mixed use, and single family attached as permitted uses. So any multifamily or any sort of apartment type unit would have to be over a ground floor, commercial use. But townhomes or another attached type of home would be permitted in planning area B. Just want to make sure there's no. Yes. And that's consistent with our first submittal and the DMU zone district.
Thank you very much. All right. All right. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 1087?
I will move to approve ordinance number 1087, ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, approving with conditions the rezoning of the Welker Farms property from downtown mixed use DMU to downtown mixed use DMU with a planned unit development PUD overlay and amending the official zoning map.
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, Mary.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Schranz, Trustee Crane,
No.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much for your time tonight. The public hearing and now is closed at 6:52. We appreciate your time and welcome to Mead. All right, we'll move on to our second public hearing. It's the Lavender Oil and Gas Special Use Permit. This next public hearing, we'll first hear from staff, then the applicant may present. After the applicant, we will take questions or comments from the public, followed by the trustees. I will open this public hearing at 6:53, and I will invite our planner, Alex, there he is, Ali, to the podium. Thank you.
It is my turn this time. I'll just wait a second to let the room clear out here. Thanks again, y'all. No, you're good. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Whitlow and trustees. The application that I am bringing forward tonight is for an oil and gas special use permit, which is going to be known as Lavender. And I've got it. The applicant for the special use permit is Kerr McGee Oil and Gas Onshore LP, a subsidiary of Oxy USA Inc., who I will refer to as KMOG for the remainder of my presentation. The subject property is generally located north of Well County Road 38 and west of Well County Road 7 or 3rd Street. The portion of the property which is to be used is approximately 15.15 acres during the drilling and completions phase, which will then go down to 8.96 acres after reclamation. The property is currently being used for agricultural purposes and is zoned RSF4 for single-family residential development. The property is surrounded on the north by property zoned agricultural within Weld County, and on the south, east, and west by existing agricultural property within the town of Mead, zoned RSF4 for single-family residential. On this map, you can see the proposed location of the site in relation to the town's current boundaries, and I'll give you a second there to kind of look at it. Sorry, it's not as zoomed in as I would like, but everyone all good on that? Okay, cool. For some background, the property was originally annexed into the town and zoned for single-family residential in 2009 as a part of the Weld County Land Investors annexation via town ordinances 660 and 661. This location was previously developed by KMOG in 2010, after which the well was plugged and abandoned in 2020. KMOG has a surface use agreement with the surface owner, which is Weld County Land Investors, Inc., and the applicant has been going through the approval process on the state level as well with the Colorado Energy and Carbon Management Commission, which is also known as the ECMC. Section 16-10-30 of the Mead Municipal Code requires a special use permit to be obtained prior to the conduction of any new oil and gas drilling and production. The purpose of a special use permit is to authorize the conduction of specific activities and allows the town to regulate land uses that are atypical in nature. KMOG is proposing to horizontally drill 22 oil and gas wells from one pad location to be known as Lavender. Mead Municipal Code Section 16-10-50 sets forth the criteria for evaluation of a special use permit application for oil and gas drilling and development, and states that the Board of Trustees shall approve an application for a special use permit for a well site if the application submitted conforms to the following requirements outlined in Section 16-10-50, numbers 1 through 8 as follows. The first criteria is that the completed application form is in compliance with the requirements of paragraphs 16-10-40C, requirements 1 through 9, relating to general information to be shown in the application, and staff finds that the applicant has met this requirement by providing the required information as outlined in section 16-10-40C, requirements 1 through 9. The next criteria is that the site plan for the well site complies with the requirements of paragraph 16-10-40C, requirement number 10, relating to general site plan requirements, and staff finds that the site plan for the well site includes all of the required information as outlined in section 16-10-40C, requirement 10. The next criteria is that the vicinity map for a well site complies with the requirements of paragraph 16-10-40C, requirement 11, relating to vicinity map requirements, and staff finds that the vicinity map for the well site includes all the required information as outlined in section 16-10-40C, requirement 11. The fourth criteria is that the map showing the proposed transportation route for E&P waste products, produced water, and produced liquid hydrocarbons from the well and production site to the preferred access to the state highway system complies with the requirements of paragraph 16-10-40C, requirement 12. And staff finds that the transportation route for E&P waste products, produced water, and produced liquid hydrocarbons shows and identifies all wellhead and tank battery access roads and municipal and county streets and roadways used to access the state highway system, and complies with section 16-10-40C, requirement 12. The fifth criteria is that the map showing the proposed transportation route for construction equipment and well drilling, completion, and reworking equipment from the well and production site to the preferred access to the state highway system complies with the requirements of paragraph 16-10-40C, requirement 13. Staff finds that the transportation route for construction equipment and well drilling, completion, and reworking equipment shows and identifies all wellhead and tank battery access roads and municipal and county streets and roadways used to access the state highway system, and complies with section 16-10-40C, requirement number 13. The sixth criteria is that the written narrative complies with the requirements of paragraph 16-10-40C, requirement 14, relating to general information required to be included in the written narrative. And staff finds that the written narrative contains all the required information as outlined in section 16-10-40C, requirement 14. The seventh criteria is that when applicable, the application complies with the provisions for geologic hazards, floodplains, or floodway provided in section 16-10-160. And staff finds that section 16-10-160 is not applicable in this instance. And the final criteria is that when applicable, the application complies with the provisions for wildlife mitigation procedures provided in section 16-10-170. Staff finds that the applicant has consulted with Colorado Parks and Wildlife to obtain recommendations for appropriate site-specific and cumulative impact mitigation procedures, and Colorado Parks and Wildlife had no objections to the proposal. The Mead Municipal Code requires new oil and gas developments to complete a road impact study to identify the impacts of the development on town roads and identify any repairs that the developer would be required to make at the end of operation. In lieu of a road impact study, KMOG has agreed to pay a $500,000 cash in lieu fee to the town to be used to help fund the paving of the town's portion of Weld County Road 7 and the future paving of Weld County Road 38. The cash in lieu fee will be made in two installments of $250,000, one in 2026 and one in 2027. And in addition to the cash in lieu fee, the town will also receive building permit and review fees. So staff finds that the special use permit application complies with the town's land use code, the comprehensive plan, and all applicable technical standards, and meets the criteria outlined in section 16-10-50, requirements 1 through 8. As such, staff recommends that the Board of Trustees adopt ordinance number, I never got the ordinance number, 1095. Recommends that the Board of Trustees adopt ordinance number 1095, conditionally granting a special use permit. And I will now invite Tracy Calling, who is with Oxy, to come up and present herself, and I will be available for any questions following her presentation.
Good evening, Mayor. Is this on? Can you hear me? Good evening, Mayor Whitlow and Board of Trustees. I'm happy to be here tonight, and thank you for being here tonight. My name is Tracy Calling, and I'm a Senior Regulatory Advisor at Kerr-McGee Oil and Gas Onshore LP. We are a subsidiary of Oxy USA, Inc. First, I'd like to thank the planning staff for all their help and guidance and support through this application. Additionally, I'd like to thank them for attending and participating with the Colorado Energy and Carbon Management Commission's pre-application meeting. As part of the state's process, there's a director's pre-application meeting, and they were nice enough to attend that. It was virtual, but still, it was nice of them to participate in that, and I thank them for that. I am joined this evening by a few of my colleagues. We tend to travel in a group, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. And they're here to answer any questions you might have about the oil and gas operations. First, I've got Andy Lytle. Raise your hands, guys. He's our regulatory manager here in the Rockies. I've got Emma Vanoy. She's our surface land negotiator. Chad Brebus is our construction manager. David Crowder is our drilling manager. And Corey Altenberger is our completions manager. So can you go ahead and advance that? Or do I have the remote? Or oh, yeah, you are. Took the remote. How do I use this? Oh, okay. So first, I'd like to start off by telling you a little bit about our company. We have done operations in Mead before. It's been a while. It's been 2014, and things look a lot different since I was here before. They used to have fold-up tables up here in front. That's what I remembered. So we have done work here, but I wanted to kind of tell you guys a little bit about who we are before we get started. We are one of the largest oil and gas operators in the state of Colorado. Since 2020, we have drilled over 670 new horizontal wells. We have also retired or plugged over 2,200 older vertical wells. So you kind of think, why is that? You would think to ask that question, or I would think you would ask that question. That's because with new horizontal drilling, we don't have to have as many wells. Our wells are longer and we can produce more oil and gas out of those wells. And so we end up having fewer wells that we need to drill. And that means we can retire a lot of the older wells that are vertical wells and get those out of our way. The nice thing about that is that we have smaller surface disturbance areas, and we can locate our facilities and our wells in places that are less disturbing to the communities where we work. We are proud to have zero routine flaring in Colorado. And it's not just for our Colorado operations, but it's also for New Mexico, Wyoming, and Texas, all of our onshore operations. This is just a small part of our commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our operations. We also have what's called Oxy Low Carbon Ventures. It's a subsidiary of Oxy, and it has over 50 years of carbon management experience, including CO2 sequestration and direct air capture. This is a part of our company that continues to grow and help with the reduction of greenhouse gases. We'd also like to consider ourselves as the partner of choice. We are committed to the operational safety and supporting the communities where we work. We are very actively involved in community service, and personnel are encouraged to participate in sponsorships in the communities where we live. We are active in the mobile food bank pantry in the area, summer meal programs for students at the St. Vrain Valley schools, and we have a long history of supporting the Energy Academy at Mead High School. The staff did a really thorough job, so I'm afraid I'm going to be repeating some of this, so just bear with me. This map here shows the general location of the lavender pad. It's the little box in red. It is west of County Road 7 and north of County Road 38. Access will be from County Road 7. KMOG is proposing, as he said, 22 horizontal wells and 1 production facility. We will drill 11 wells first, and those will be the eastbound wells. And then we will do the 11 wells to the north. Those are the northbound wells. Each of these will drill down more than 7,000 feet. That's over a mile, probably more like a mile and a half, but I don't have the math right here. But it's close to that. It's over 7,000 feet deep. And then nearly 2 miles in each of those 2 directions. These 22 wells will produce hydrocarbons from over 2,480 acres. We have a service use agreement with the surface owner, the property owner, and the closest home is over 3,600 feet away to the southeast in Margale Farms neighborhood. On this map, shown in yellow, is the haul route. We will utilize County Road 7, which is a gravel road, and then we'll go east on County Road 38 across I-25, and then take the frontage road south down to Welker, where we will get onto I-25. As you know, as mentioned, we've entered into the cash in lieu agreement for the town for road improvements that will occur after we have completed the pre-production phase of our operations. We are planning to start pad construction in 2026 in January, and we will do this in 2 phases or 2 operations is what we call it in our industry. First, we will drill and complete the first set of wells. That will be, as you see these colors in green on this slide, will be in 2026. And then in the second phase of operations, we will drill those wells in 2027 into early 2028. We will do interim reclamation later that year in 2028. That's the green star you see. At this point, the wells are turned onto production. That's the term we use, turned onto production, and they will operate for approximately 25 years. The initial disturbance area is 15 acres, and it will be reduced to 6.7, which is a little different than what Alex had, but I think it's because I'm talking about the pad, and I think he was including the access road. So that's just a small difference. But the pad goes down to 6.7 acres once we're into interim reclamation. And I use that term interim reclamation. A lot of people don't know what that is. That's something we use in our industry. So when you drill your pad, you have to have a larger area, 15 acres. And then once we're into production, we're able to pull that back. And so it becomes owns a much smaller area. 6.7 acres is the pad size. And it's called interim reclamation because when the wells eventually meet their full life expectancy, we're able to plug those wells, remove the facility, and it'll be completely reclaimed and you won't see anything. So that will be complete interim reclamation. So there's initial interim reclamation and then final reclamation. The photos on this slide show you kind of some of the stages of our development. The first photo on the left shows the pad construction, and that takes between 45 and 60 days. The next picture shows drilling, which shows you the drilling rig there. And then the pad on the picture on the right shows you what a typical production facility looks like. So once we're ready to have those wells into production, they will have flow lines that go into this production facility. It's a fenced, secured facility. And then at the top there, you see some temporary tanks that are the produced water tanks. Those are only on site temporarily, and those will go away once you get about 6 months down the road. So it's just that fenced in area is really what you have left at that point. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about our best management practices. In order to mitigate noise, we utilize an upgraded drilling rig with noise reduction features and quiet completions technology for our hydraulic fracturing fleet. Our water on demand system is a freshwater pipeline delivery system and has over 180 miles of underground pipeline that allows us to bring fresh water to our location for completions without having to truck it in. This alone saves 142,000 truck trips during the completions phase. Our oil tankless facility, which uses pipelines instead of trucks to transport oil off the pad. This drastically reduces traffic and emissions. This is about 72,000 truck trips that we're able to eliminate over the whole life of the well. We have an integrated operations center, the IOC. This is a state-of-the-art center in Platteville that provides valuable monitoring capabilities 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The IOC minimizes site visits by enabling remote monitoring of the wells and equipment, including tank levels, pressures, and temperatures. If something doesn't look right as they're monitoring it, they can actually shut the facility in and send somebody out to take a look and see what's going on in case of an emergency. It's a really great thing, that integrated operations center. KMOG has the lowest greenhouse gas emissions intensity of any of the major oil and gas operators in the DJ Basin. The chart on the right shows KMOG, or it's actually listed as Oxy, compared to 6 of the largest operators in the basin, registering well below the 2030 target for greenhouse gas emissions. Oxy is on the far left, if you can't see it, the little short one. And lastly, our stakeholder relation team is a resource dedicated to communities since 2014. We seek feedback and learn from stakeholders to tailor our operations. We are committed to transparency and sharing information about our operations. We provide regular updates on projects on our website. Stakeholder engagement for this pad started this summer in June when we posted a sign on the property identifying proposed future oil and gas location, which includes contact information for our stakeholder relations team. Here's the contact information for both our stakeholder relations team and the Integrated Operations Center. They are a resource for both the town and the surrounding community. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tracy, very much. And thank you, Alex, for your presentations. This now is an opportunity for the public to comment on the special use permit. When you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board, and we ask that you please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Are there any comments from the public at this time?
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. My name is Mike Samuelson, and I'm an attorney. I represent the.
Sir, could you state your address for the record?
Oh, I apologize. My 323 South College Avenue, Fort Collins.
Thank you.
And I represent the landowner directly to the north of this proposed well pad site. Richard Hornig is the owner, and he passed away. I represent the personal representative, Kevin Hornig and Brian Hornig are here. My client has been actively working to develop the property to the north. It's about 320 acres. And this pad site is it's essentially on the property line adjacent to their property. And the issue that we're dealing with is that it's very hard to get around the setback requirements that the state and likely the town of Berthoud, when it annexes my client's property, will put into place. There's a 2,000-foot setback from any well pad during the construction phase, and then for a period of 1 year after production. After that, there's a 500-foot setback, and that setback prevents essentially any development on the property. And that has a serious impact on my client's property. That after 1 year of production, we've calculated as about 9 acres of land that they can't use, they can't sell, they can't develop. As of today, that's several $100,000 worth of land that they can't, a loss that they're taking. And like I said, my client has been actively trying to find a buyer to develop the property, and we've been working with a buyer for about a year, and this lavender pad site has been the issue, the linchpin that ultimately made the deal fall apart because the developer wasn't comfortable with the setback requirements. And so what we're seeking is that this pad site be moved so it's not directly on the property line, so that it's at a minimum 500 feet back from the property line, so that this property to the north, my client's property, isn't as significantly impacted. And we're talking in the short term, they're going to be impacted for likely a few years until these wells are completed and in operation for a year. After that point, our goal is that there won't be any development impacts on my client's property. And like I said, my client doesn't own the pad site, they own the property to the north, so they don't have any ability to enter into a surface use agreement with the developer. And there's really no there's no way for them to recoup the loss if this pad site is approved where it is currently. It's because it's right on that property line and it's going to impact them. And so that is our main issue. Is it's not that my client is against the production or the plan for this site, it's that they want to move just a little bit to the south so that it's not impacting their property as much. And the other thing that it's already been addressed a little bit, but is that
time, if you could finish up, please.
okay. I was going to mention County Road 7 and getting that paved, and it sounds like that is in the planning stages. So that is something my client appreciates. But
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak during this public comment period? All right, I will turn it over to trustees for questions or comments for the staff or the applicant. Trustee, Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Oh, well, I have to agree with that attorney. I think he's got a very valid point. Yes, the current landowner has every right to have that oil and gas extracted from their property, but if the setbacks for said site are going to have an adverse impact due to the easements and requirements around it, then I have to agree with him. You guys need to move your pad site so that it doesn't impact their property. That's all I'm going to say.
Trustee Schranz, and then Trustee.
Along
Crane.
those lines, I guess my question is more directed to the attorneys. Can I assume that you have had this discussion with the oil company and asked them to move it 500 feet, or are you depending on us to do that for you?
we haven't had any active conversations about moving the pad site.
You have not.
Correct.
Is that correct?
We have not.
Okay. Do you think that might be a worthwhile effort? Just rather than, sit down with them?
Well, I mean, given that this is in front of you today, I don't think there's any time to have that conversation. So that's why we came today.
Okay. All right, then. Let me ask my question to the oil company. Is it a challenge for you to move the pad 500 feet?
The surface use agreement we have on this property is with the service owners. It goes back to 2010. And that's when we previously drilled this. When we came back to drill again, we wanted to move it south into another area in his property, and he would not allow us. So he said, the only place you can drill is right here. And so we can't move it farther south.
Okay, so it becomes a property owner issue.
And secondly, we did hear from Mr. Hornick. I don't know if it was his attorney, my surface land person. I know we got emails and we explained to him the state's setback laws. We explained the laws within the town of Mead that we're meeting the setback requirements in both Mead and the state of Colorado. If this property is not in Berthoud yet and they want to annex it into Berthoud and they have restrictive setbacks, then I would suggest that they maybe think about something else. I would suggest annex into Mead or leave it in Weld County where you can develop it.
Well, I'm sure everybody's legal here. I think we're just trying
Sure.
to meet, this is the King Solomon kind of thing. right?
Understood, yes.
We're trying to mediate.
Yeah.
And we're in this position. I don't know if we should be in this position to mediate between that, but
Hold on for a minute.
Well, we can't move it. Yeah.
yeah,
This current surface owner will not allow us to move it south.
that answers that
Okay,
question.
correct.
Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead.
You want to answer? Can I add on to that real quick?
Go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Before you,
Tracy.
sorry, almost got away.
Sorry.
The question I had for you is, obviously you're saying that the owner won't allow you to move further to the south. But since they just brought this up, I don't know if this is the first time you're hearing
It is not the first time.
Okay, so
They did reach out. We did get an email and a conversation with Hornig. Richard Hornig. And so I have emails, either it was from his attorney or was it from him? And so we can provide that information, but we did have conversations with him and we explained to him that we're within the legal rights.
Can you tell me though?
Hold on just for a second. Okay. One at a time.
Can you tell me why the owner will not allow you to move to the south? Is there some other?
I don't know why he won't. I can ask my surface land negotiator to explain. I believe he just preferred it where it was. That's where he wanted
Probably
it to
the
be.
same reason they wanted to move. So
Hold on for a minute, you guys. You're having conversations besides
All
what's happening here.
Thank you. That was my.
Okay. All right. Trustee Crane.
So I just want to get it right. You're re-drilling something that was previously drilled.
So when you negotiate with the surface owner, property owner, we get an oil and gas location. And we have a right to that as long as we're holding minerals and we can drill in that location. So since we were drilling there not that long ago and we still had an active oil and gas negotiated surface location, I should probably have Emma explain all this. Am I saying this right? Okay. So since we had that, when we went back to him and said, we would like to move it, he said, I don't want you to move it. I want it there. That's the only place I will let you drill. And we actually looked at properties to the west. We looked at multiple properties. But that was in that vicinity. In order for us to drill in one location and reduce our overall footprint, we needed to be in that area so we could have everything in one place and drill two different directions.
That sounds good to me. Thanks.
Trustee Hagan and then Trustee Cartwright.
My question's actually for Marcus and maybe Alex. The way I heard you read the requirements was that the land use, that we shall approve it if it meets those criteria. And since it meets those criteria and the setback from the property line, I don't know that we have a real good basis not to approve it. Marcus?
Area in the code that talks about potential negative impacts on a neighboring property owner that's not within the town's jurisdiction. I mean, it's simply not in the code consideration of that.
In the code does say shall approve, right?
Correct.
If it meets, I mean.
Trustee Cartwright.
I was just gonna say that if they were drilling there before, then you guys knew about this 20 years ago as being on the property line. And I think at that point in time is when all this should have been brought up. I don't think it should be brought up at a point where we have a requirement at this point to approve it.
Sir, excuse me? Sure. Could you state your name and your address for the record? Could you say it again in the microphone?
My name's Brian Horning. I'm at 2580 Weld County Road 42, and it's a Berthoud address, but it's the house just to the north on County Road 42. The comment about 20 years ago, the setbacks weren't the same 20 years ago. So, and the issue with the Weld County land investors having a surface use agreement, we also have a surface use agreement that we can prevent Oxy Petroleum, who also is leasing our minerals, from doing further development on our property, which actually this site is causing us to not to impact any development on our property. So I think that the excuse of having a surface use agreement with Weld County land investors is a moot, because it impacts our property, and their setbacks and the development crosses the town boundary, which also on the north side is in the berthed growth limit or impact area. And I know that Berthoud has not had any, didn't file any complaint or any comments on this development, but it still impacts us and our future development. So I think the Weld County land investors, their surface use agreement shouldn't have any detrimental impact to our surface use agreement and our potential development on our site. You know, they're moving this project further north, so it doesn't impact their development, their future development rights, but it does in fact impact our future development rights. So I don't think that's, you can just say, well, that they have their surface use agreement and there's no budge from Weld County land investors. I think they need to be told, you can't put this site as close to the northern boundary as you think you can. And all we're asking is that it moves far enough back where the 500-foot radius doesn't overlap our southern property line. That's all we're asking. And if that is done, and I think looking at the map, I think the northern point of the Lavender site or the Lavender boundary is less than, was around 100 feet from the property line. So if it's just moved 400 feet south, which there's existing topography draws in that area that they're building around or they're taking into account, moving farther south would have a zero detrimental impact to Weld County land investors' future development, in my opinion.
Thank you very much for coming to the podium. Okay, Trustee Cartwright, any more?
I just have another question, and this is really from Marcus. If our code says we shall approve, then this would move out of our hands and into their hands for a decision to be made, because this is not something we can stop from happening based on the way that our ordinance is written. If we don't approve it, we are going against our own ordinance. But this is really something that should be in court. It shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be hearing this as a decision.
Well, Trustee Cartwright, it might be helpful for Ms. Colling to give us an overview of what the state process is as well. I mean, this is there's two steps in the process, right? There's a local approval and there's a state commission approval required as well. As I mentioned earlier, there's no criteria in your code that talks about or asks you to consider impacts on neighboring property owners, right? It says if these requirements are satisfied in section 1 through 8 of 161040, then you shall approve the permit. It seems like the issue that they have is maybe they're the wrong form, right? I mean, this is something maybe they need to bring up with the state, but I'd want to hear from Ms. Colling in terms of a summary of what the next steps are after this permit is conditionally approved by the board with the state.
So, we go through a pretty thorough process when we permit things like this. I know that the city has a process where you notice people before the hearing and they have an opportunity to speak out. And then we've had that sign there since June saying future oil and gas. We had one phone call and we explained to them that we were meeting the code requirements of both the state and the local government. The state requires us to notice of oil and gas development out 2,640 feet to all mineral owners or all property owners. So we submit our application to the state, which we've done, and it goes through a 6-month review process. And then it gets an opportunity for them to post for public comments. I think it's a 60-day period. So once we reach completeness of our application, the state sends out notices to the surface owners and mineral owners within 2,640 feet. They have an opportunity to go on the state's website and make a motion or post a concern or object to it, petitions or objections. We passed that period last week. We had 0 comments on the state side. We haven't gotten any phone calls from the sign we have out there. We had one phone call from Mr. Hornig, which our surface land team talked to him about and explained that we're within our legal rights according to the way we understand it. The town of Berthoud has extreme setbacks for oil and gas, more so than any other community I've ever worked in. In fact, we own some property on the other side of County Road 7. We couldn't develop on it because the 2,000-foot setback to the parcel boundary. Our parcel wasn't big enough to even put a site on that location. Plus, we wouldn't have been able to reach all the minerals for every direction we go. So I feel like we've gone through a pretty thorough process. Our process started, I want to say 18 months ago, where we started through the process of evaluating alternative locations. And the state has us look at alternative locations as part of our application, and we go through all of those in detail with our application. So I feel like we've done our due diligence. We follow the code. We follow the code for the town of Mead. We follow the state code. There's one landowner to the north that is having concerns. They don't have an application submitted for land use development. You know, if you had an active application for land use development, maybe that would be a different situation, but they haven't even started a process yet. So I guess what I'm saying is I feel like we've gone through the right channels and the right process, and we meet the code, and we feel like we have the right to develop this in this location. And I've already explained we can't move this pad south, even 400 feet.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Harris, and then Trant, and then Hagan.
Well, you're saying you can't move the pad, but that's only because the landowner won't let you, not because you physically can't move the pad. I got to assume that the landowner who is it Turian? Or I mean, not Turian, Highlandtown, sorry. The landowner, Highlandtown, we've heard about. I'm assuming he benefits from this drill. Does he get a monetary benefit from you guys coming back and re-drilling on this site?
Of course.
I want to hear it.
Hi, my name is Emma Pinoy. To answer your question, he is the director of Weld County Land Investors, and he is heading the development project. But the family of the property is the ones who own the minerals. So Christopher Highland does not directly benefit from the oil and gas development on the property. As far as I know, I do not know the details of how they, share things monetarily between their entity, but that is how it shows up in the chain of title to us.
Okay, so if he's getting if somebody who is a landowner for that property is getting something monetarily from you guys expanding your drilling, I don't quite see why it can't be moved. I mean, if you guys were to say, look, we really need to move this, and they said, no, we don't want your stupid money, I don't see that happening. I don't understand how that can happen. What were the previous setbacks when the pad was originally developed? What were the setbacks at that time? How big of an impact did it have on the adjoining property?
2000, did you turn it off? Is it still on?
Yep.
I think the green light means it's on. I don't know what the setbacks were back in 2010. I wasn't with the company. I would have to ask the town of Mead to look in their records to find out what their setbacks were. They were significantly less. As you know, things have changed over time. So it's very hard to find a location. Like I said, we spent months looking for this location and negotiating. And the only, we were able to get everything on this location barely. It's very tight. It's a very small pad. Part of the reason why we're doing 2 occupations, because it's so small. Yeah, so it's, you can say it's
Like he might have an answer to my question.
Yeah, so to clarify, which jurisdictions have authority over drilling as well as land development within proximity to the oil and gas wells? When it comes to the state, the oil and gas company is subject to those setback requirements when they're drilling in proximity to residential properties or other types of units. The town of Mead setback is the ability for the landowner or a developer, the distance that they can plat lots or build commercial buildings within a certain distance of an existing oil and gas pad. So when we look at the Berthoud's setbacks, the town of Mead is not subject to those, as well as Berthoud is not subject to the town of Mead setbacks. So if Berthoud were to adopt half-mile setbacks, they would have to move their surface holes in their drilling pad 2 mile or half a mile to the south. We don't have jurisdiction over that. So they're only subject to what's in the requirements that are within the town of Mead. If they were to annex into Berthoud and get out of the county, the appropriate forum, to Mr. McCaskin's point, is to appeal to the town of Berthoud about their oil and gas setbacks for the development of properties within their jurisdiction. So the 2,000 feet is not something that the town of Mead would enforce. That's the ability for them to drill within proximity to residential dwellings and other things.
Trustee Schranz.
Moving along that lines, and this is just a question / statement. If the setbacks in Berthoud are causing you concerns or issues, is it to your advantage to annex into Mead and get different set of setbacks? I don't know what the answer to that is. It's just, okay. Go ahead and answer that, because my next question doesn't have anything to do with this stuff.
Do you turn this on?
It is on.
Oh, it's on now. We asked that question to the town of Mead. I'm not sure if the person's here, that was the community development director. And because we're in the Berthoud growth boundary, and we're north of the kind of the County Road 40 line, we were told that Mead no longer wants to go north of County Road 40, even though part of Weld County Land Investors property is north of 40. So, and they said, well, you would need to annex into Berthoud. We couldn't, in order for us to annex into Mead would have to, not, for lack of a better term, fight it out with Berthoud on taking over part of their growth management boundary.
Okay.
That's what we were told.
That's a fair answer. All right. My next question is really more for Tracy, and it's got nothing to do with this pad site at this time. Welcome back. I was around in 2014 when we did all this stuff. So, but it's been a long time since we've done oil and gas on this board. So it's bringing back a lot of stuff. I have some questions about noise and light abatement. All you mentioned was that your equipment is now quieter, but that doesn't deal with light. And especially with your proximity to Margill Farms, just across of 7 there. Do you have plans to do any of that mitigation like we used to do in the old days?
Well, we do mitigation, and we do a lot of it with our lights and the way we orient the lights on the drilling rig. But we are we're a long ways away. 3,600 feet is a long ways away. So we, at this point, we do a light mitigation plan that we submit to the state. It measures foot candles for the rig and all the lights that we have during that construction phase. And it determined that light is not trespassing to the point where it bothered the neighbors. However, if it is bothering them, we will work with them, and we do work with them, and we make adjustments as needed if we get complaints. So that's why we have such a robust stakeholder team that can talk to people when they call and they can complain. I mean, I know of times we've had people up on the rig adjusting lights on the cell phone with someone sitting in their house saying, turn it a little bit more. I mean, literally, we do everything we can to modify and accommodate people.
Oh, okay, but that's fine as long as you have a process, because I think that's going to come up. As soon as they start seeing you drilling, they'll be in here.
Certainly. And we haven't gotten any phone calls from Margot Farms. And we sent them a notice at our pre-application meeting. The town requested that we reach out to them. And we did. We sent them notices and we didn't hear anything from them. So we sent it to the HOA president. And so we haven't gotten any comments from anybody.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's been a long time since
It
we've
has.
done oil and gas here in Mead, so
Yes.
out of sight, out of mind kinds of stuff. The next question I have, and I know that we have a cash in lieu of 500,000 for roads and stuff. The way I understand your path
Mhm.
is you're going up County Road 7, which is a dirt road.
Mhm.
This, maybe this is more a question for town manager. Is this 500K available now, or is it something that we have to wait till the end of the project and then do that? Because my fear or my concern is the damage to County Road 7 being a dirt road with these trucks on it. And we have that responsibility to flatten it, mag it, do all the fun stuff to it. And we'll have to do that more often.
Right.
We get a lot of complaints now just from the traffic coming off I-25 running down that. And that's just cars.
So
Well-
trustee Trance, I can answer that.
Okay.
Back, I think it was 2016, we developed this, basically a degradation fee based on what the oil traffic was going to do to our roads. And we had this whole thing where you did a pre-study and then you did a post-study. And we realized that it's really difficult to manage. And so we actually negotiated this kind of a pre-damage amount based on the traffic impacts. So we feel it's fair. It's very fair that they're paying their way because they will degrade the roads. But rather than do anything to it while over that intense period, we felt like we can use this money to ultimately pave that road. And that's a substantial portion towards Mead's cost of paving that road.
And I think that's valid and fair. I guess my concern is because that's a hunk of money that we get at the end of the project.
No, it's in two payments,
It's
in
in-
2026 and
Yeah.
2027.
But still, because we're going to have to use some of that to maintain 7. Otherwise, it'll be disastrous, even for them, for their truck.
Did a half a mile of 7 they travel.
Yeah, yeah.
And Tracy, can you address that?
So we talked to Dave Matthews and we worked with him quite a bit and he explained how he has a dedicated guy right now that maintains County Road 7 because of all the traffic you've been getting on 7 and our traffic in addition to it. So that will continue happening. The town will continue to grade that road and help with the redding and stuff like that. And we do a lot of mag chloride. I'm sorry, it's not mag chloride. What's it called? It's a different blend, but we use a lot of different kinds of ways to mitigate for dust. We have to do it on our pad anyway, and we have to do it on the road from the County Road 7 to our pad. So we had told Dave that we would be able to help with some of those mag chloride treatments along County Road 7 to help keep that dust down. And so we've kind of worked it out with Dave that we would do that to help keep that down and because that's a very expensive chemical.
I understand. And
Yeah.
please understand where I'm coming from too, is that because we have a responsibility to maintain that. Dave Matthews does a great job and he goes out there and mags it twice a month. But now with all this additional traffic, you're going to have to mag it twice a week. And I'm looking at not so much dust because we're going into the wet season. What is snow and rain going to do to that road with that truck traffic on it? And how much more do we have to get a grader in there every other day?
Well,
And we have to absorb that cost.
yes, and
initially.
I would argue, since I'm on that road almost every day, we almost have a crew out there continually. I would also argue that it is in their best interest that they be able to get use the road as well. And I have to say, in the 10 years that I've been working here, and I have worked with Tracy for all that time, they're usually on it before we're even told about it. We've had roads subside. It's very much in their interest to keep it open too. So.
And please understand, I'm not being
Yeah.
critical or attacking. I'm just trying to find out how we're going to close that loop because it's going to happen. So whether it's they do it on their own recognizance, that's great. Whether we do it, but if it is us doing it, then we have to absorb that initial cost to get it done if we have to increase the amount of times we have to do it because of that. So
Yeah.
working together, I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up as an issue for me because we get a lot of stuff right now just from normal traffic.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a team effort because there are going to be times when they're going to get ahead of us on it, but I'm confident that we'll get it done. And I think the $500,000 payment is really going to go a long way towards ultimately fixing that road.
Thank you.
All right, trustee Hagan.
Two quick things. Is it Mr. Hornig? Is that your name? Or what's the to the north? I respect your property rights and normally I would be pretty protective of that, but your lot or your land may not develop for 20 years. I mean, you don't have a plan and process that could really be impacted right now, or a buyer or anything. So we're kind of obligated to approve this. But I would also say, doesn't it start with a work area of 15 acres and then it goes down to 7? So can you move the permanent facility within the 15 acres to be more oriented to the south?
She got the wellheads there.
Okay.
Comment about not having a buyer. We've been in negotiation with a buyer for over 5 months. And this lavender site is what's put a wrench into those negotiations. So we were very close to signing on the dotted line. And almost in less than a month or 2 months' time, he would have filed an application with the town of Berthoud. So we were very close. And then this lavender site came up, we saw the sign, we called the town of Berthoud, or town of Mead actually, and we were told we couldn't have any comment until the public hearing was scheduled, and that's why we waited till now. We did have other people contact Oxy to find out, you know, the logistics and seeing if it could be moved south, and that's why we're here tonight. But we did have a buyer, and it basically put a wrench into the whole mix. He's very leery about losing that type of acreage on this development.
Hey, Helen, how long's the development, the underlying landowner of Lavender? How long has that person been talking to the town of Mead about developing?
Probably the whole time that I've been here, I'd say 8 years.
Yeah, so they've owned that land and they've had
They've owned it
concepts, they've
since.
thrown things around and nothing ever happens. That's kind of my point. Even
Yeah.
if someone else bought your land, doesn't mean they're gonna go straight to development. It depends on the demand, utility service, all that stuff, so.
Can I say one more thing? My surface land person wanted me to point out that this AGOA, oil and gas location, was part of the land since 2013, and it's public record of where that is and where it's located. So it's not like we're just doing this new, it's been there for a long time. So as part of a due diligence, if you know that that's there, that might affect, you know, your development on adjacent properties. So it's not new to this development, but it's been there for a very long time.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much. And thank you for all of your comments and questions and staff and folks who are in the room. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 1095?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 1095, an ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, conditionally approving the Lavender Pad special use permit for 22 oil and gas wells and associated production facilities pursuant to chapter 16, article 10 of the Mead Municipal Code.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
trustee Shantz,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Sadly, yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion passes. We'll move on to our last public hearing of the evening.
Can you give me a close on?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I missed that. I will now close the public hearing at 7:48. Now we'll move on to our final public hearing of the night. It's a public code update. This is the second reading. The last public hearing is regarding this update. We will first hear from staff. Questions or comments will be taken after the public and the trustees. I will now open the public hearing at this time at 7:49. And I will invite Tim Roney, our town's chief public official with Safe Build, is here tonight. Sir, you have the podium.
Good evening. So it'll be the second reading for the proposed ordinance to adopt the 2024 I codes, as I call them, the various codes. Right now, the town is on the 2018 codes. Historically, Mead has adopted the new codes every second cycle, which the 24s are, and that's what the proposal is for.
Okay, thank you very much. This is now an opportunity for the public to comment on the public code update. When you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, and we ask that you please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Are there anyone here that will make comments from the public on this public hearing? Okay. Do the trustees have any comments or questions for Mr. Mahoney tonight? Trustee Hagan.
We had a pretty thorough and lively discussion on this last time, and I asked staff if we were going to incorporate any changes to address the concerns that were, I think, widely discussed and shared on the board. Did anything change from then to now?
No, there's been no. The main takeaway that I have from that prior conversation is that there was some concern about this board, the Board of Trustees sitting as the Board of Appeals for any appeals on the building code. And we did commit to look at some point in the future, look at transitioning that and having the Board of Appeals be a independent appointed hearing officer. But that's something that we're going to need more time to look at, and really doesn't impact the adoption of the codes.
Yeah, the codes themselves, the building codes, fire code, all the codes, those aren't in the question. It's only the legal process and the process that town defines that I was asking about. And you said there's things we could do there, but we have not seen anything on this.
No.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tim? Thank you very much for your time and for being here. All right. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 1092?
I move to approve ordinance number 1092. An ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, repealing and replacing Articles 2 through 10 of Chapter 18 of the Mead Municipal Code, and adopting by reference and amending the 2024 International Building Code, the 2024 International Residential Code, the 2024 International Mechanical Code, the 2024 International Fuel Gas Code, the 2024 International Plumbing Code, the 2024 International Energy Code, the 2024 International Property Maintenance Code, the 2024 International Existing Building Code, the 2024 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, and providing penalties for code violations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Shranz,
Yes.
trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Hagan,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Thank you, Tim, for being here tonight with us. And I will now close the public hearing at 7:53, and we'll move on to our second public comment of the night. We have no further comments, so sorry. We have no further general business, so this brings us to our second regular public comment period, which would be for any items, whether it's on the agenda or not. We will follow the same guidelines previously stated. I will call on individuals in the order that they have signed in. Again, I ask all speakers and audience members to treat one another with respect and dignity. Is there anyone that's signed up or is in the room that would like to speak to the Board of Trustees? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to town trustees. Anything like to report? Go ahead. Trustee Trans.
Last week, I had an opportunity to attend a session that was put on by the Northern Colorado Foundation on affordable housing and the likes. It was a very, very interesting session. There were 4 key things that they talked about, and one was introductions and overviews, which most of the people in there were either developers, real estate people, and or city community development people, and me. But the areas that they talked about most was ADUs and the missing middle playbook. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Condo comeback and fees, taps, and infrastructure. The subject is affordable housing. There seems to be a very, very large push for ADUs. But the first statement that they make when they say ADUs is that they're cost prohibitive, and they are. But the plan now, what development is beginning to look at doing is having new sites, new build sites being ADU ready. Because the biggest cost of putting an ADU in is your infrastructure. So if you wanted to put an ADU in your backyard, it's going to cost you at least $100,000 just to get all that stuff done. And then you got to build a building. That was one thing I mentioned. This is, well, if you're going to go through all that, you now have a $300,000 ADU that you're going to rent out for $2,500 a month. It's no longer affordable. You've bypassed the affordability of this thing. And they all agreed with that. But they can cut the cost considerably by doing it at the front end of the build cycle. So have it ready. They talked about different ways of doing that. They may make it like an option. So if somebody wants to buy this house, they can have the option to have that infrastructure put in up front. If they have any future plans of adding an ADU, they can put them in on all houses and charge accordingly for the house, but you get the ADU set up. So, so they are looking at a lot of different ways of making ADUs affordable for somebody to build and then make it affordable housing. They lean heavy on affordable or ADUs being mother-in-law's quarters. Children, kids who don't leave home, rather than have them in your basement, you can put them in the ADU. But there's a lot of stuff that goes around it. And the interesting point is that a lot of people are looking at it. They're really trying to find creative ways to bring this to light because they feel that's the important piece. Outside of ADUs, the next section was condos and condo comeback. What developers are really starting to say now is that housing, the way the traditional housing, they go out, have a subdivision, build a house, is not profitable for them. Their margins are very small. The initial cost of going in, again, just to do the infrastructure for a house, you're looking at $100,000. And that's just 2 pieces. That's the building permits and water. The water tap and the building permits put you in at $100K at a $500,000 house. So it's already 20% of the cost is just in those 2 items. So they don't see a future where housing is going to be profitable for them. Plus the fact that the younger generations are not necessarily anxious to buy a home. They would just as soon have something that has no responsibilities like shoveling snow or mowing lawns or stuff like that. So developers are now beginning much more interested in rental property, which to me equates to apartment complexes, things of that nature. There's more money for them to be made in renting out 600 units than trying to sell 200 homes. So there's a lean towards that. And the next piece, the last piece, which is where we got a lot of discussion, fees, taps, and infrastructures. I do applaud development in that they really are interested in developing affordable housing and or low cost or low income housing, but they can't do it by themselves. So what they're bringing up are valid points. The towns and cities and the municipalities that they have to deal with needs to start looking at a lot of our stuff differently. We need to start thinking outside the box. And I told them this, I said, the problem with municipalities, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So, and sometimes you need to break it in order to fix it differently. So they're trying to get back, they're trying to get into the world of municipalities and say, how can we work together with development? And what kinds of things, if you're really truly interested in affordable housing, what kinds of things can we do to make the housing affordable? So the whole session, I thought it was 3.5 hours long. It was great. I learned an awful lot just by sitting there and listening to what these people had to say and had to do. And I can apply a lot of that stuff to stuff that we do here. So I think at some point in our future, if we're really truly interested in doing affordable housing, we'll need to start looking at some things differently. But I got a lot of good names. I did have, at the break, I had a guy come up to me from DOLA. And they have an awful lot of stuff in DOLA that we can tap. The NOCO Foundation has now becoming providing some financial assistance. They have, in their foundation, taken $5 million and put it off to the side to work with municipalities to help get through some of these quagmires that seem to be in the way of getting it done. But it was a very, very valuable piece for me. I learned a lot from it. So I wanted to just pass that on. And I signed up as a trustee to the NOCO Foundation so that they keep sending me newsletters and emails and invite me to the next group of sessions that they have. Because I think it's an ongoing discussion. It's not just one time.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
It's something it just occurred to me when you're talking about the ADUs, and it's great if it's your mother or your kids, but is it a separate property that can be sold? When you build like a granny pod on the back of your property, or is it like just an appendage to your house?
The way I understand it, it's an appendage.
Okay, so nobody can buy it and then.
There's no subdivision.
No.
Oh, there's no subdivision of property. It just is plopped on there.
It's a whole different set of issues, because if you have an ADU in your backyard, you want to sell your house. Oh, by the way, Junior comes with it because he's already in the ADU. So it causes a whole lot of other challenges that I don't think they have encountered yet because it's just not there.
Great question, Helen. All right, anything else? Trustee Hagan.
Mine's slightly shorter than Herman's, but I would just say that with 2B failing again, I think the message is we better start doing better with what we have for a while. And I think we should take a hard look at the budget and those 7 FTEs. That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I would have brought this up during Helen's time, but we had so many people in the audience that I didn't want to take up time during that. So, because I know this isn't actually a report, it's just some things that I wanted to bring up. Erica, would it be possible for you to bring us a diagram of what the striping is going to look like at County Road 7 and 66 when they're done with it? Because I'm having a really hard time visualizing how that's going to look when they've made those 3 lanes, but then there's this one clear over here. And could you bring us a diagram sometime? I just want to get a visual look of it and what that's going to look like. Have we made any progress on getting a traffic pattern from the school? What they envision, how will traffic flow, where are the roads in and out of the new school? Any progress on that?
We have not made any progress on that.
Have you asked and they just don't have anything, or you don't know yet?
We haven't asked.
Okay.
They usually don't give us things like that.
Well, I mean, it can't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
And if nobody ever asks, they're sure as hell not giving us anything.
Okay.
So could somebody please ask for that?
Yep.
Okay. I was going to direct this to Lorelei, but she's not here. So somebody's going to have to pass this along. The last high school football game that they had the STEM high school drone team do a thing. It was freaking amazing. It was so good. I could not believe how good it was. And I think that we need to look at doing a drone show for one of our events. And I realized it was, did I like it? I was super surprised. I don't think I've ever actually sat through a drones show. Usually, I kind of, oh yeah, they're doing a drone show, big deal, whatever. Or I've seen them off in the distance, but it was really good. And I think we ought to look at getting them to do a drone show, like support our schools, support that high school team, to come out and do a drone show, because it was really amazing. Okay. With 2B failing, now this is something that the whole board is going to have to put some input into, because it's going to require town staff putting resources and time and energy into it. I think that we need to go circle back to that warehouse tax. Giving David full credit, he was the first one to bring that up. And when it totally backfired on us, we dropped it. And I know I brought this up in a retreat already, but like I said, this is gonna require a consensus of the board to have them put that time and energy into it. I think we need to go to our small businesses and start figuring out how we can do that they can support. There's going to be no end to the warehouses coming on I-25. You drive down to Denver and it is warehouse after warehouse after warehouse after. They're going to keep coming. We already know that. We've got the brand new site being developed out by FedEx that's coming to build some more. We've got Access 25 right there coming to build more warehouse. They're going to come because of the proximity to I-25. And that's honestly where they should be, is on I-25. And if we're not going to be able to get an increased retail tax, we're not getting a Walmart, we're not getting a Target, we're not getting a King Soopers. We are not big enough for those things to be looking at our area yet, but we are getting warehouses. There has got to be something that the smaller businesses around here, a minimum square footage that they could support, or a way that we could write it that they could support. But the only way we're going to know that is if we start talking to them and actually coming up with a concrete plan to eventually send to the voters for a warehouse tax. But if we don't start, we're never going to get there. I mean, I
agree with that.
We're trying to get the FedExes, the Home Depots. We don't want the mom and pop shops. That's not what we're after. It never was, but that was what it was taken as, and I understand that at the time.
Trish, do you remember how much money that would bring in, or estimated to bring in?
I do not remember. Would you remember it all? I mean,
Yeah, it was less than $200,000 a year.
Well, then we need to circle back to that. But
that's the start.
But that's the start. Like, we're going to get more warehouses. It's something. We've got to look somewhere else. And that is a way. What?
Hotel tax?
Lodging tax was my next one I was going to bring up. We tried a lodging tax once and it failed because I think people thought, oh my gosh, if I want to Airbnb my property, you mean I'm going to have to pay for this? Like, again, I don't think we necessarily did the marketing on that very well. And now we do have Gopher Gulch as a potential source of that lodging tax. And obviously we don't have any hotels yet, but again, you look up and down I-25 and it's hotels and warehouses all up and down I-25. So I think we've got to expand where we're looking to get revenue. And I think those are two places where potentially, well, and I'm not saying spending is not a place to look as well, but we've got to start looking at other ways to get revenue. And I think that those are two places that would be a logical start. But like I said, some other people have to agree with that because that involves time and effort by the staff, which means money. Well, but it's them taking their time to go and do that versus something else they could be doing. That's what I'm saying.
Could we just get a summary of what you did before on the hotel, on the warehouse? Yeah.
Well, you could get a summary of it, I suppose. I don't know, but
Some of us weren't on the board, so I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We could probably put something together and make it, we could do a summary to send it to the board And we could talk about it at the retreat in January. Be a good,
That's a good place.
okay, great. Anything else, guys?
That's it from me. Oh, sorry.
Trustee Hagan, anything? Laura? Okay. Done? Okay, I don't have anything. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Shreens.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Trustee Hagan.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. The November 10th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 8:09. Thank you, everyone.
And